brings us up to new business. Ordinance 26 dash 03, zoning map amendment.
Judge, I'm going to present the map amendment by summary and first reading, but a number of other things to take care of before we talk about that. I basically want to make sure the fiscal court members and the public, for that matter, are aware of happenings, what's going on with the data center project. In speaking to y'all previously, we've indicated that we do the non-disclosure agreement, a number of things that county government had taken no action, wasn't in negotiations, and had not contracted with anybody with regard to data center. County is in active negotiations. I want to make sure we're reporting that to you. And for a number of reasons, this project is either going to go or not, and when I say for a number of reasons, but ultimately your decisions, this project's going to go or not go fast. And let me tell you the reasons. Jim Parsons is back here, our counsel, who is involved in negotiations with the data center prospect on behalf of the county. Jim represents county, does not represent anybody else, and is negotiating this. And we'll let Jim not talk about specific negotiations, but talk about issues. But in discussions with Jim, there are some concerns, and not to speak badly about our data center prospect or have concerns about them keeping their words on certain things, but the county has some concerns brought up by Jim Parsons, our counsel, that by approving the zoning ordinance, that we leave ourselves open to not binding this prospect to what their promises are. So it's the county's approach at this point that we need to have, if this is going to happen, we need to have terms negotiated, presented to the fiscal court, probably at the same time as you consider this zoning ordinance. So in other words, we don't want to change the zoning designation for 2,000 acres of land without the promises of the economic benefits of the project being contractually bound to the county and the community. All that to add another time deadline is the IDA has option agreements and contracts for the purchase of real estate that are expiring, not today, but are expiring shortly. So you have the availability of land and the need to close on land. The prospect will not do that. I'm going to look at the Tanner as I say these, but will not do that until some of these risk items are addressed, including the zoning ordinance, which we're going to have first reading of. The county won't do that without addressing risk issues for the county, which is binding on some terms with the data center prospect. So I say this all to you because, probably about the time that the text amendment was approved and we brought on Jim Parsons has been working for you, and I'll let Jim address you after we have first reading. But like I said, this thing's either happen or not happen, and your votes obviously control that, among other things, but it's shortly. So I say that all this to you. I think you can expect a series of special meetings coming up and having real business terms put in front of you and hard decisions to make on approving terms of various things for this project. So I'm not involved in the first-hand negotiations. I'm repeating this, but I think it's important that you and the public know that this is coming quickly and you're going to have real proposals in front of you to negotiate, and it's going to take a number of special meetings to decide these items. So that's sort of my report on where we are. That good summation, Judge? Or?
Yeah, well done. Any questions, Commissioners?
We need first of all, a packet that's been prepared by Sherry and I guess distributed to y'all with the
your books,
correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
From the record from the Planning Commission, as with our text amendment, and according with the authority of the City of Louisville versus McDonald and Residential Development Corporation versus Campbell County, It's my recommendation that we accept the record from the Planning Commission as the record in this matter. In other words, that we don't hold new evidentiary hearings. We talked about this before. Under oath at the college, 2 nights, that is the evidentiary hearing. What comes here would be summation or argument style hearings. So I guess first of all, I'd ask the court to consider a motion to adopt the record of the Joint Planning Commission as the record of the the fiscal court, and to close the taking of evidence on this matter.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any additional discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Hart?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Frame?
No.
Judge McNeil?
Yes, ma'am.
We need a special meeting date. We'll do a first reading here of this in a moment. And George is here to address if you have specific questions, but we need a special meeting date to, I don't know if judges got recommendations.
Looking at the 22nd. Looking at the 22nd, tentatively,
So it's Friday at what time?
9 a.m.
We adopted, or I put into the record with the text amendment, basically a set of rules. And I'll tender these to Stephanie so they can be in the record. But basically, saying today you're establishing guidelines for holding hearing on your second reading and adoption or consideration of ordinance 26, what are we on, 3? Oh, 3?
Yeah.
And basically those rules say first reading today, second reading 5/22. Basically no additional evidence will be taken. At the special fiscal court meeting, the court will hold a public hearing to consider argument-style presentations from proponents of data centers and from opponents of data centers. Each side shall be permitted 30 minutes for its presentation or argument or summation of the evidence made by the fiscal court. Like before, it would be my intent to reach out to Mr. Nichols on behalf of the data center prospect to organize a proponent's argument. And I had asked before Mr. Grady on behalf of We Are Mason County to, as y'all recall, he used, the lawyers use the time, but they can use this time any way they want to. They can split it up among people. But I'll coordinate that with Mr. Grady and Mr. Nichols. That says, following the arguments or summations of both sides, fiscal court may consider recommendations of consultants, staff members, or others, such recommendations to be made during the public hearing. And that's it. So I'm going to give that to the clerk, the rules that we'll follow for this.
Thank you.
And finally, for first reading, ordinance number 03. An ordinance, this is by summary only, an ordinance affirming the findings of fact of the Mason County Joint Planning Commission and adopting the recommendation of the map amendment rezoning 28 separate properties consisting of approximately 2,080 acres located north of Germantown Road in western Mason County to I-3 for construction of a hyperscale data center, and thereby amending Mason Fiscal Court Ordinance number 0207 and republishing Ordinance number 0207 to incorporate such amendments. If you have questions, Mr. Larger here has done a great job in both of these amendments and organizing and running public hearings and doing his job. This is a little simpler because last time, if you'll recall, with the text amendments, we rejected in part and adopted in part and made separate findings of fact. This, as proposed to you, just adopts in total the findings of fact, the conclusions of law, and the recommendations of the Planning Commission. So it's a little simpler ordinance. We aren't creating our own findings of fact.
Yep.
So that's my first reading for consideration, vote, adoption, rejection, whatever, on the 22nd.
Well done.
And Judge, if you'd, do y'all have questions for George? Anybody, George? Did I leave anything out? Okay.
George, I'll say well done to both you and Mr. Clark, as well as the unpaid volunteer members. your board, the Joint Planning Commission. That's a heavy lift, and your all's efforts are appreciated.
And I don't know whether now is appropriate time, but Mr. Parsons is here, and I don't
Sure.
if he could update the court again.
Jim, you wanna come
Probably not
forward?
specifics, but in generalities, what he's doing and what he's up to would be great.
I would like to add something. All of the documents in your guys' binder in the record are all on the data center zoning public information page for anybody who wants to, Mr. Grady, the public, et cetera, et cetera. So all those are online on the city's data center.
Good morning.
Judge and members of the court, appreciate being here today. I'm Jim Parsons with the law firm Keating, Youth and Clekamp, and I'm your special counsel relative to this particular project. Just wanted to give you an update. This may be a little bit a different process than you're normally familiar with, but on a project like Fast and Major project, it's often I would definitely recommend ultimately having a development agreement with the company that's coming into the community. Basically, it sets forth the terms of the commitment they're making to the community, as well as the government commitments back to that particular entity of things. And so the only thing I had suggested to the county attorney is that even though probably the full development agreement won't be ready for approval by the time you do your second read in the zoning ordinance, at a very minimum, I would like to see a binding term sheet be executed and approved that sets the basic commitments of the company to the project and things. And so we're in the process right now of working through that. I think just some parameters of it is the whole concept is that the project, as far as the cost of the county, there will be no ultimately cost of the county. The project itself any cost created by the project itself will be paid for by the project and not by the citizens or the community per se. There are also going to be some community benefits in the agreement where they're making certain commitments to the community to do certain specific things regarding infrastructure and other things, public safety and things like that as we move forward. So I'm in the process of trying to put that together, but again, as soon as we're able to share that with the court and for a discussion on that, we will be in a position of doing that. But the concept here is that whatever that ultimately binding term sheet is, that will be incorporated into ultimately a larger development agreement, but we want to get the basic concepts all approved and contracted before you give second read of the ordinance. So the only reason on that is that you have a little bit more leverage at this point during the zoning process, and not that you don't have leverage in the future, but it's just advisable to get as many things committed in place with the company before that process occurs. So that's kind of where we are. We're making very good progress with the company, and hopefully we'll have something very soon for you.
Agreed. A little bit like detente, trust but verify. So.
And we mentioned this before, commissioners, feel free to reach out to Jim. Obviously, the whole fiscal court directs his work, what he's doing, but if y'all have questions, Jim will communicate with any of y'all directly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any additional questions?